Hi guys, we're back with the notes for 8.2. We're going to be solving the quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. So if you happen to have three colors of a highlighter, that might be helpful so you can see it. I am going to be using the TI Inspires right next to the screen so that anybody who's not in class with me is able to see exactly how we're going to type this into the calculator. Okay? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is click on my home screen on my calculator and get it ready to go. Second thing, I want to point out the equation that we're using. So you don't have to have this memorized, okay? I'm going to give you that formula on every test, every quiz, every exam, and it's even on the star. So we're safe in that department. What you need to know is how to use it and which numbers go where. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is how to make sure our equation, our quadratic equation, is set up in the right order. So first, we need to know that the x squareds go first, they have the highest degree, x's go in the middle, no x's go at the end, and most importantly, our equation always has to equal 0, okay? Once you know that, you can rearrange anything that you need to make it look the way you want it to. All right, so let's start with problem 1. On problem 1, our x squared is in the right spot, okay? He's good. However, our x's are separated. We don't have them all on one side, which we need. So I'm going to move the 9x. We know that to move something to the other side, we have to change it to a different sign. So I'm actually going to cancel off those 9x's and put them on the other side, okay? I'm going to combine them when they get there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this negative 36 to the other side, and I'm going to make myself a little note. Remember that we need to change that to a plus 36 when it gets to the other side, okay? All right, so my x squared was good the whole time. Negative 4 and negative 9 makes a negative 13x, and that 36 is now a plus 36, okay? All of that is over here on the left side. I don't have anything left on my right side. It only equals 0. And that's great because that's what I want, okay? So let me zoom out now. All right, so when we start highlighting, we're always going to let our A be who is with my x squared. Not the letter, just the number. So how many x squareds do we have? Well, we don't have a number there, so it's just a 1. Our A is a 1. How many B's do we have? Well, B is the number with x. So that means my B number is a negative 13. You do want the sign. Finally, my C number is whoever is by themselves with no x's other than the 0, okay? So my C number this time is going to be a positive 36. Once you have all three of those, it's ready to move into the formula, okay? All right, so if I start plugging in, notice that the pink ones are negative 13. Those are B's. I have 2 of those, so I'm going to write them both in. This negative does not belong to B. So if B has a negative, you have to put it in the parentheses. So my number is a negative 13. In this case, there are 2 negatives now. Okay? My other pink is also going to be a negative 13. My yellows are my A's. We're going to put a 1 in both of those parentheses. And finally, my C is a positive 36. I'm not going to write the positive because I don't want you to think we're adding. It is just a regular 36. Okay? All right, that's the first 2 steps. Make it equal 0, get it in the right order, and then plug in your values. We'll talk about how to move into the calculator in just a second. All right, let's try the second problem. Second problem. Looks like my x squareds are all good. They're in the right spots. However, my x's are a little spread out. So if I want to get my 15x to the other side and combine it with the other one, I'm going to have to cancel him off. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So these are going to be gone, and that 25 is going to move over. I'm going to make a note that we are going to change to a minus 25. Okay? All right, so my 9x squared was already there. 15 minus 15 actually cancels. These are gone. And when I move my 25 and it's negative, this is my new equation. All right, so this one's going to look a little bit different. When we have our A, B, and C going, we actually don't have 3 terms in our problem. We're still going to have an A, B, and C, but we don't have 3 terms. So let's see who we do have. We have an x squared, so we do have an A. Our A is going to be a 9. We do have a number at the end next to the equal sign who doesn't have an x with him. That C is a negative 25. However, we don't have a b. These are the problems you've heard me say. We don't have a middle number. When you don't have a middle number, that means you're adding up to 0. Reminder, this is when you have no x's. You have 9x squareds, but you have no x's, okay? All right, let's take a second and plug these guys in. Again, my b in the pink is going to be a 0. That's okay, we can plug in 0. 0 is a number just like anything else. My a's are going to be a 9. And my c, the only c I have, is a negative 25. I do put the sign in here on this one because it's a negative number, okay? All right, we're going to do one more. Problem 3 is great because there is no c. So I'm going to zoom in real quick. It's already in the right order. I'm going to highlight what we have. We have our a, our b, and our c. My a is the number with the x squared, so that's great, it's a 12. My b is the number with the plain x, so a negative 4, we have that. But my c is a 0. It's not this 0, okay? My c is the number in here before the equal sign. It happens to be a 0, okay? So again, it's not the after the equal sign, it happens before. Because there's no other number before then, that's why it's a 0, okay? All right, we're plugging it in. My b's are going to be negative 4. Remember that you need to have 2 negatives. My a is a 12, and my c is a 0. Go ahead and pause the screen if you need to. Copy anything you missed, and I'll meet you on the next page. All right, we're only going to do 4 examples today. We're going to do the same 2 steps that we did just a second ago. We're going to go ahead and make our standard form, which is our x squared. You can write this on your paper if you want. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. They have to look like that. We're going to get them in the right order. Label our ABCs and plug them in. That's where we're going to start, okay? All right, so problem number 1. If I'm trying to put this in the right order, I'm going to write 2x squared. I need this guy to move. Notice I put him in the middle. And when I move him to the other side, I have to change him to a plus. So he's going to be plus 7x and then minus 15. Why did I put him in the middle? Well, because it has to go x squared, x, no x. I can't just put him on the end. That's not in the right order, okay? That means my a is 2, my b is a 7, and my c is a negative 15. When your equation's in the right order, labeling your numbers is easy because they go in order. All right, so if you recall, my b goes first. B is the 7. He goes in the first 2 parentheses. My a comes next. I know they don't go in order. That's just the way the equation is. My a is the 2. That goes where the yellow is. And c is a negative 15. Take a second, copy that down, and we're going to number 2. Okay? I know we're not finishing the problem. We'll do that in just a second. Problem 2, we're going to rewrite it in order. That 4 doesn't have an x, which means that when he moves, he's not just going on the other side. He has to combine with the other no x's. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides just to make sure you can see what this looks like. That means we have 3x squared minus 12 equals 0. Okay, be careful. Your a is 3. You do not have any b's. I'm going to make a note of that. There's no x's. That's why your b is 0. And your c is the negative 12. So we're going to put a 0 in the first 2 parentheses. That's my b. A 3 in the yellow. That's my a. And a negative 12 where the c is. All right, I'm going to zoom out. If you missed anything, go ahead and copy that down. Ooh, maybe my screen's frozen. There we go. Ah. Give me just a second. It doesn't like it very much right now. All right, there we go. All right, we're looking at problem 3. Problem 3, we're lucky. It's already in the right order. So I'm going to write in here, already done. Now, my a is the number in front of my x squared. So how many do we have there? It's just a 1. My a is 1. My b is the negative 6. He's with the x. My c is 1. So remember that b is the pink. He goes first. That's my negative 6. Very important that you have both negatives right here. My A is a 1, that goes in the yellow, and my C is also a 1, that goes in the blue. Okay. We're going to do one last setup, and then we'll start with the calculator. Okay, problem 4. Putting it in order, we get lucky, it's already done, which means my A is in front of the x squared, that's my 2. My B is right in here, that's a 1 for 1x. My C is a 7. So my B goes first in the pink, those are the 1s. My A is in the yellow, those are my 2s. My C is the 7. Ooh. Give me just a second, my iPad lost its mind, hold on. All right, give us just a second to get back where we were. Oh no, I didn't write it down. Give me just a second, I'm gonna copy these back on here. I'm so sorry, thank you for being patient. Give me just 1 second. All right, let's recenter the screen. All right, and we should be good to get back started. Okay, so we're going back to problem 1 now, and we are ready to focus on the solving. So I'm going to zoom in all the way. This is problem 1. And I'm going to move over here to my calculator, okay? I'm opening up a scratch pad. It doesn't matter if there's something in there. You can just leave it already there. Okay, here is our process. First thing, we have to make this giant stinking answer, okay? In order to do that, I can't just start typing minus parentheses. I have to build the whole equation first, okay? So we're going to start with this toolbox. We're going to choose our first guy right here, make my fraction, and now we can type in whatever's in the top and the bottom. So I'm going to start with negative, parenthesis, 7, parenthesis, okay? That plus or minus means that I'm going to have to type this equation in 2 times. I'm going to have to type it in once with a plus and once with a minus, not at the same time, okay? So I'm going to use the plus first. Actually, I'm going to use the minus first so it goes in order. Okay, so minus. I'm going to do control x squared. That's how I build my square root. And then I'm going in the parentheses. Parenthesis, 7, parenthesis, x squared. And it'll just square it. It doesn't put an x. I'm going to go minus 4, parenthesis. See how my top of my square root keeps extending? It should do that. It should keep moving over all the way until you get to here. Oops, until you get to over here after the 15. That house should keep moving across the top, okay? So in my next parenthesis, I'm going 2, parenthesis, parenthesis, negative 15, close parenthesis, okay? That whole thing is just my top row. So I'm going to use my arrow down, jump to the bottom, and go 2, parenthesis, 2, okay? When you have this whole thing built and you press enter, it's going to let you give one full answer. So here's what I'm going to say first. Do minus first to get least answer. Okay, so when I did that problem, my least answer was a negative 5. So now I'm going to do the plus second to get greatest answer. Here's the greatest news, and if you're listening for just a second, this is going to save you so much time, okay? Remember we have the copy and paste option? So if I go up, up, and I make it blue, just push enter, it copies it so you don't have to type it in again, okay? I'm going to go all the way, back. I'm going to hit delete and change it to a plus sign. Press enter, and there is my second answer, okay? We're going to leave this as 3 over 2. It's a positive, so that's how I write it, okay? Take just a second, copy down anything you need, watch it again if you need to, but we're going to go to problem 2, okay? All right, problem 2. Here's my whole setup. I'm ready to start typing. I start by making a toolbox, okay? So toolbox, fraction. Writing across the top, we're going to go negative, negative parenthesis 0, close parenthesis. We're doing the minus first so that we get our least answer. Control, square root, parenthesis 0 parenthesis, square it with the x squared, minus 4 parenthesis 3 parenthesis, parenthesis negative 12 parenthesis. That whole thing is the top. Go down to the bottom, 2 parenthesis 3 parenthesis. Okay, take a second, make sure yours looks like mine. If your house, like the top of your square root, stops somewhere over here, it's probably because you're using this little arrow up button. You're using the raise to the button, which is great, but we don't want to use it for this because it makes your square root cut off early, okay? All right, so I press enter, my first one. So when I did the minus, I got a negative 2. That's my first answer. So I'm going to go up, up, turn it blue, enter, copy it and paste it, move my arrow all the way back, and change it to a plus sign. When I change it to a plus, that gives me my second answer, positive 2. Okay? All right, if you have no questions, take a second, pause this. Let's go to question 3. All right, this one's problem number 3. So I'm going to start again, and I'm going to show you some of the things that can go wrong in here, all right? I'm going to start with the toolbox, make my fraction, and I'm going to copy what I see. So negative, parenthesis. Remember, this has 2 negatives. Make sure you're using the white button. That's a negative. 6, close those parentheses. I'm doing the minus first, so minus, control square root. I'm going to show you what happens if you try to use this little arrow up button, okay? Parenthesis, negative 6, close parenthesis. I'm going to go arrow up to square it, and then I'm going to keep typing. Watch what happens. Minus 4 parenthesis 1. Do you see how it stays little? That means you're still in the exponents. So if you see it stay little, backspace all the way back, okay? And we got to get out of that, okay? So let's say I get out of it. Watch what happens now. Minus 4 parenthesis 1. Do you see how the top of my square root like stopped? It's the line's not going and going and going. That means I jumped out of the square root. That's why I don't like to use that button. So I'm going to go all the way back, and we're going to start this again. Square root, parenthesis negative 6, parenthesis. Use this x squared button. It lets you just keep typing. So squared, straight into it. Minus 4, parenthesis 1. See, my square root keeps going. My numbers are back to big. We're in good shape. Parenthesis 1, parenthesis. Arrow down. 2, parenthesis 1, parenthesis. Use your parentheses. It will make your life easier, okay? Get my first answer? Here is our rule. Write this on your paper. We are going to round 2 decimal places. Now, that does not mean just write down the first 2. That means you are rounding. So on this first problem, we get 0.1715. I want to take my second decimal, look at his neighbor. That 1 tells me to stay where I am. I am not rounding down. Don't make it a 6. But my first answer would be 0.17. Let's go ahead. We're going to arrow up, copy it, enter, paste it, go all the way back and change it to a plus, enter. Now I'm going to write this one down. My answer on my screen is 5.82843. I'm going to look at the second decimal and ask his neighbor, is he going to stay or round up? That 8 tells us to round up. So 5.83. So to refrain, this one stayed, this one rounded up. That's because of these little numbers. Okay, this 1 made it stay. This 8 made it round up. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you have issues with rounding, please come see me because that will dictate whether you get the answer right or not, okay? All right, last one, number 4. Notice that I'm not copying and pasting between questions. I am typing each question new in. That's going to keep you from having problems with the parentheses and your negative signs, okay? You can copy and paste in the same question to go minus and plus, but you need to change and type it in again when you have a new problem, okay? All right, first thing, I'm typing on the top, negative, parenthesis 1, parenthesis minus, square root of 1, whoops, need parentheses, parenthesis 1, parenthesis squared, minus 4, parenthesis 2, parenthesis, parenthesis 7, parenthesis. On the bottom, we're doing 2 times 2. If you want to just type 4, knock yourself out. Times 4. All right, here's the last and final thing you need to see. Let me go ahead and see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you. Oh, it won't let me do that. Okay, I hope you can see this. I don't know how to make it much bigger. It's not going to let me. Okay, so what it says is non-real calculation. For example, the software is the real setting of square root of -1 is invalid. All that means is that you can't square root a negative. So let's make that. That note, can't square root a negative. So here is what we put. We are going to write non-real answers. If you put NRA on my math paper, I will just count it wrong. Do not put NRA. Write out non-real answers. NRA is like a National Rifle Association. We're not doing that, okay? Non-real answers. All right, that is the last problem. If you have any questions, please come see me in tutorials. It'll tell you that answer right here, and you have an assignment.